Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to the winter campaign for Arkham Horror, the card game. We picked up 3 experience in the Pit of Despair last week, and both of our investigators also suffered a physical trauma. For Nathaniel, I'm not very concerned with this, as it drops him down to an 8-6, which is still very serviceable. Akachi, however, I'm a little more alarmed with that, because it drops her down to a 5-8, which by itself isn't concerning. But when you add in the fact that her weakness can also cause her another physical trauma, we're already starting to have a wary eye on the house rule that I have around trauma. So if we pick up another physical trauma, in addition to one from her personal weakness, we may have an eye to wrapping the campaign early, but we'll see how the scenario unfolds first. We didn't spend the experience yet that we picked up from the Pit of Despair last week, because the resolution instructed us not to, but it turns out we could have spent that experience because as part of Investigator's setup, we now are able to spend that three experience that we got. We're going to sit tight on it though, again, with an eye toward the house rule that I've got around trauma. But we're all set for we're just about set for the second scenario. First up, the second scenario being the Vanishing of Elina Harper. First up, let's set the scene.
Scenario 2. The Vanishing of Elina Harper. Wednesday, August 17th, 1927. 5 weeks earlier. Wake up, damn it! Agent Dawson shakes you awake with his right hand. You are in the passenger seat of a pristine, state-of-the-art motor car, its polished body glowing with the light from the moon as it rolls through the foggy Massachusetts countryside. We're almost there, Dawson informs you. Unfortunately, Innsmouth lacks a working railroad, which you would have preferred. There is a bus that runs from Boston to Newburyport, and another that runs from Newburyport to Innsmouth. But Dawson had insisted on driving you there himself, perhaps to provide you an escape route should things go sour, or to show off his expensive automobile. Perhaps both. As you arrive in Innsmouth, the stale odor of day-old fish and decrepit, musty buildings washes over you. Many of the buildings along the western side of the town seem to be abandoned, though you occasionally spot figures in some of the windows. You imagine Agent Dawson's opulent car must make quite an impression in such a dirty and dingy town. You joke that perhaps he should have driven here in a jalopy, to which he replies with a smirk, "That's never been my style." Eventually, you reach a defunct railroad station that was given up years ago. A few train cars sit abandoned on the tracks, and the depot is boarded up and condemned. Dawson suddenly grimaces and points to another vehicle in an open lot. "That's Agent Harper's breezer. Let's park here and continue on foot. We can move through town a little easier that way," he reasons. You check Agent Harper's vehicle before continuing, but it contains no clues as to her whereabouts. From there, you head eastward beside the Manaxet River, passing numerous deserted warehouses, sodden alleyways, and standoffish townsfolk. Harper's got to be somewhere in this forsaken town. Residents don't look all too friendly. Wouldn't be surprised if she drew too much attention from a local mob or the like. Dawson begins to contemplate aloud. You ask how he knows his agent isn't simply keeping a profile. Ah, yes. Well, we have a code phrase for that. If she had sent me a letter saying she had some errands to run, that would have signaled that she would be out of touch for a short while. Without that signal, I have to assume the worst. To the northeast, several factory buildings loom over the rest of the town's sagging gambrel roofs, cupolas, and widows' walks. None of the locals stop to greet you along your way. Given the repulsive countenance that many of them bear, their aversion to the usual small-town pleasantries is a relief. Eventually, you reach the town square just south of the Manaxet, though even these crumbling brick buildings that surround the supposed heart of the town inspire little confidence in Agent Harper's safety. An old bus idles nearby, its greasy-looking driver leaning against the door and eyeing you suspiciously. With little else to go on, you decide to split up, knowing that you can cover much more ground that way. Canvass the locals and learn more about this town, Dawson says. Find out who the big shots are in this hellhole. One of them is bound to know where Harper was last seen or who she was with. I'm going to see if I can find out where she was hiding out and look for some sign of her. Meet up with me here at 1900 hours. Understood? You nod in agreement and go your separate ways. The first person you check with is the bus driver, who probably has a decent understanding of the town. His coarse, grayish skin is the first thing you notice, followed swiftly by unusually deep and shadowed creases in the flesh of his neck, almost as if he were prematurely aged. His bulging eyes are unsettling, and you're suddenly unsure whether you've seen him blink even once as you approach. You start to offer your hand as you introduce yourself, then think better of it, just in case the man has some kind of disease you've never heard of. He introduces himself as Joe Sargent and gives you a useful, if cursory, rundown of some of the nearby buildings. What follows is a summary of the information conveyed to the investigators about the town of Innsmouth. In plain view of the town square is a groceries of the First National chain, run by a youngster by the name of Brian Burnham, an outsider from Arkham. The idea that somebody else from Arkham might be here fills you with some degree of hope and perhaps a little bit of pity for the boy. The Gilman House, owned by Athera Gilman, is the only hotel in town. Considering its shabby appearance, you suddenly wish you'd only planned a day trip. Down the street from the Gilman House, tucked between a dismal restaurant and a drugstore, is the little bookshop, so not named for its size, but after its owner, Joyce Little. Mr. Sargent doesn't seem to care much for her. To the north, along the main exit, is the Marsh Refining Company, the centerpiece of the town's only industry. Joe speaks of its owner, Barnabas, whom he calls Old Man Marsh, with a measure of reverence and admiration. Mr. Sargent tells you to avoid the old bridge along Fish Street, which has collapsed from years of disrepair and serves only as a haunt for the dispossessed. And don't listen to that drunk Zadak, the bus driver warns. His tales are just that. Tales, nothing more. Further east, past Water Street, lies Innsmouth Harbor. Sargent warned you not to get in the way of the dock workers or their business, for they are a rowdy bunch who aren't used to outsiders, especially the ironically named Robert Friendly, whose name Sargent utters with a hint of hostility. To the north, on New Church Green, there exists an old Masonic hall, now given over to an organization referred to as the Esoteric Order of Dagon. What truly goes on inside this old, decrepit building is anyone's guess. Finally, Mr. Sargent asks what you're doing in Innsmouth. You dodge the question with one of your own, asking him if he had seen anybody around town matching Agent Harper's description. He pauses, then shakes his head. Never seen her, he mutters, refusing to meet your gaze. You spend the rest of the day learning the layout of the town and attempting in vain to make conversation with the locals. The more time you spend in this strange, squalid town, the more you wish you had never taken Agent Dawson up on his offer. There's something foul in the air here, something rotten and fetid that disturbs you to your core. Later that night, you meet up with Agent Dawson in the now deserted town square and share what you have learned. Take a look at this, he says, handing you a creased, ink-stained letter addressed to him. Turns out Harper had a room at that disgusting old hotel. Still does, technically, but it seemed like she hadn't been around for a few days. I broke in and found this among her things. Judging from the unmailed letter, it seems Agent Harper knew someone in town was tracking her movements. I'm being followed, the missive explains. Don't know how they know, but they know. It's like the whole town is in on something. I have no contacts here whom I trust. It's going to require more than one agent to sort this out, I fear. The letter is cut short. Well, she has more than one agent now, Dawson says bitterly once you're done reading. There's only one reason she wouldn't have sent this letter. Harper's in danger, and somebody in this balled-up town knows where she is. Together, you begin to formulate a plan to find Agent Harper. First, narrow down her last known location. Second, find out who knew she was in town. Then, pay them a visit.
One thing about the intros to these scenarios is they always make it sound so simple in theory. In practice, it rarely is so. Next up, though, you can see we've got the tarot deck in shot. Since we didn't have an upgrades video this week due to the unspent experience, we're going to have the tarot reading here. So you might be picking up on the fact that I didn't really like this campaign too much the first time I played through it. There are two main reasons why for that. One is you're probably noticing is the two of them really go together, truth be told. One is the flashback aspect of this campaign, where I'm getting slightly spoilerific, but it kind of makes for a very disjointed story for me. Because at one point you're flashing back to like 5-6 weeks in the past, another you're back in the present, and yes, I'm getting slightly spoilerific, but I'm trying to explain why. I wasn't fond of this campaign the first time, but I wanted to give it another try. The second reason is because of the unspent experience, and I think part of that goes with the flashback aspect of it. But I'm rambling on that. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the eventual campaign outro. But we've got our tarot reading here to do. First up, The World 21. Each investigator not defeated during this game may remove one trauma of their choice during its resolution. On the good side, or if we flip it to the bad, each investigator defeated during this game suffers one trauma of their choice during its resolution. Then our card here. Justice 11. Cancel the first doom that would be placed on the final agenda of the game, or the final agenda of the game enters play with one doom on it. Since I don't want Akachi to start taking trauma like crazy, I think we're going to flip Justice 11. So we'll have one doom on the final agenda, but each investigator not defeated during this scenario can remove one trauma of their choice during resolution. So since that didn't impact opening hands, we can go into those next. Nathaniel will once again be our lead investigator. He'll start off with 3 events. First up, which might be played during his turn, emergency cash to gain 3 resources. Next up, we've got a monster slayer, which lets him fight, doing +1 damage. Then we've got interrogate, parlay, choosing a humanoid enemy at your location and testing combat 3, +X difficulty, where X is the enemy's damage value. If you succeed, discover a clue at your location and 1 at any other. Next up, we've got 2 assets. First, an ally. In Greet Wagner the Purifier, 5 cost to play. Lore and combat on commit. Did any of our events cost anything? Interrogate cost 2. +1 combat, and after you defeat an enemy, exhaust Greet and deal 1 damage to her. Discover a clue at your location. 3 health, 2 sanity, and takes the ally slot. And a card I'm always very happy to see with Nathaniel. Boxing gloves. 3 cost to play, combat on commit. +1 combat while fighting. And after you've defeated an enemy, exhaust boxing gloves to search the top 6 of your deck for a spirit event and add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Of course, takes up both hand slots. Akachi's hand I'm not as happy with to start the scenario. Like Nathaniel, she's got a copy of Emergency Cash as well. Then we've got Eldritch Inspiration. 1 cost to play, lore, will on commit. For each arcane slot you have, draw 1 card to a max of 5. For each filled slot you have, choose and discard 1 card from your hand. Next up, we have a Hallowed Mirror, and I had a hard time mulliganing this away. Limit 1 per deck. Forced. After Hallowed Mirror enters play, search your bonded cards for 3 copies of Soothing Melody. Add 1 to your hand and shuffle the other 2 into your deck. When it leaves play, find each of those copies of Soothing Melody, even if they're out of play, and remove them from the game. 2 cost to play, will on commit. Then we've got Shriveling, 3 cost to play, combat on commit. Uses 4 charges, which is also known as 5 for Akachi. As an action, spend a charge to fight, using will instead of combat and deal +1 damage for the attack. But if you pull a bad symbol, take 1 horror. And finally, read the signs. 2 cost to play, will and lore on commit. Investigate, plus will for this investigation. You may ignore any effect or keyword on your location which would trigger during this investigation. If you succeed, discover 1 additional clue at the location. Next up, we'll take a look at the starting act and agenda decks. First up for the agenda, we have Decrepit Decay. Let me see if I can zoom in on this just a touch. Furtiveness and secretiveness seemed universal in this hushed city of alienage and death, and I could not escape the sensation of being watched from ambush on every hand by sly, staring eyes that never shut. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. Forced, if you defeat a suspect enemy other than the kidnapper, take control of each clue on that enemy. Record in your campaign log, name of enemy is out for blood. 6 doom to advance. And our 1 agenda, or our 1 act, I should say. The search for Agent Harper. The next morning, you and Agent Dawson split up and search for his missing agent. As a fast action, the investigators spend X per investigator clues as a group, parlay. Reveal the top X cards of the leads deck to a maximum of 3, and draw one of them. Shuffle the rest back into the leads deck, along with the top card of the encounter deck. Group limit once per round. Objective: you may advance at the end of any round. Hint: you will have to make an accusation when you advance. Advance when you believe you have narrowed down Agent Harper's kidnapper and whereabouts. Oh joy, so it's a glorified game of Clue, basically. But that's it for the Act and Agenda decks. Last up, our investigators will sort of move over to the map, and I'll explain what happens when we join them over there. What I meant by the investigators are sort of going to move over to the map is you may recognize these brass-backed markers, these brass-backed action tokens from LCG. I picked these up as a set of markers to track once per game or scenario locations, to track once per scenario or game effects. I'm going to use those as movement because, as you can see, it's fairly tight quarters here. Obviously, Guardian will be for Nathaniel, and Mystic will be for Akachi. So let's take a look at our first location, Innsmouth Square. Our side of the cobblestone open space was the straight line of the river. The other was a semicircle of slant-roofed brick buildings of about the 1800 period, from which several streets radiated away to the southeast, south, and southwest. Lamps were depressingly few and small, all low-powered incandescents. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. This will flip into Shroud of 4, 2 clues. As an action, resign. You decide to lay low for a while. Spend 2 resources as a fast action to move. Move to a connecting Innsmouth location. I did not need to be told that this was the civic center of Innsmouth. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. We'll grab the 2 clues for that. Put the investigators back there. And with that, I think we're all set to get started. So we'll drop over to Nathaniel's play area for the first investigation phase. Nathaniel's going to end up with no resources on this turn. Action 1, he's going to start off with an emergency cache. Then actions 2 and 3, he's going to spend all 8 resources right off the bat. So action 2 is going to be playing Greed Out. So now he's got a 6 combat. And the boxing gloves will bring him up to a 7-1 fighting. Very simple turn for Nathaniel. Let's move over to Akachi. Ideally, I play this card when I have more arcane slots, but I only have the 2, so I'm going to spend 1 resource for an Eldritch Inspiration to draw 2 cards. And, oh, we forgot to go through flavor text on some of these cards for Nathaniel. We'll do that real quick. Emergency Cache says, you can never be too prepared. As for Greet Wagner, with Iron and Salt, with Water and Fire. As for Akachi's Eldritch Initiation, by both light and shadow, may dusk beget dawn, may the turning of the world lead to power everlasting. Well, let's hope. Akachi will draw 2 cards, and since none of her arcane slots are filled, she won't have to discard anything. First up, Clairvoyance. Okay, wunderbar. 4 cost to play, Loron Commit. Uses 3, aka 4 charges for Akachi. As an action, spend a charge to investigate, using Will instead of Lore. If you succeed, discover an additional clue at this location, but if you pull a good symbol, take 1 horror. And another Read the Signs, which I think for action 2, we're going to use 1 of those to try to pull those 2 clues off of the location. A grisly future is laid before you. Do you turn away or do you embrace it? So we're at a 7-4. She's up 3 trying to get both clues. Elder Thing can't be good. Elder Thing, oh joy. Come on, you do not want to focus today. There we go. -4. If you fail, place one of your clues on your location. So of course we fail. That was action 2. I think action 3, we're going to play Clairvoyance on her next turn. But to do that, we need to play Akachi's Emergency Cache, which will bring her back up to 5 resources. And that will do it for Akachi. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, first turn of the game, so there are no enemies in play. We'll go ahead and reset everything here. It's rare that I don't have to flip portraits over at the map, but then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Nathaniel will gain 1 resource. Akachi will gain 1 and go to 6. Nathaniel will draw. If it bleeds, 1 cost to play, lore, combat on commit. Fast, play after you defeat a monster. Each investigator at your location heals horror equal to that enemy's horror value. Akachi will draw. Azure Flame, 3 cost to play, combat on commit. Uses 5 charges. It says 4, but it's +1 because of Akachi. As an action, spend a charge, fight, using will instead of combat and deal +1 damage. But if you pull a good symbol, take 1 damage, and takes an arcane slot. Mythos phase, we put our first Doom on the agenda. Nathaniel, for the Mythos cards, will draw. Fog over Innsmouth. Revelation, test will 3. If you succeed, either take 1 horror or put Fog over Innsmouth into play next to the agenda deck. If you fail, do both. Each location gets +1 Shroud. Force. At the end of the round, discard 1 copy of Fog over Innsmouth from play. Max once per round. Nathaniel's at even, and I don't completely feel comfortable testing at even, but I think I do not like testing at even, especially since we saw there is a -4 in the bag. But I think we're going to commit if it bleeds to go up 1. Like I said, I'm not completely happy about committing even that, but I don't think we have a choice. And we pull the Elder Thing again. Wonderful. So we take a horror and put that next to the... agenda deck. How fun. At least it'll be gone at the end of the round. Akachi draws. An Innsmouth Troublemaker. 4/3/2, Humanoid Hybrid Criminal. Spawn location with the most clues. Hunter. As an action, place 1 of your clues on your location. Parlay. Exhaust Innsmouth Troublemaker. It does not ready during the next upkeep phase. This ability may be triggered by an investigator at a connecting location. Okay, so that's it for the Mythos phase. Nothing we're having to worry about there. We'll move into the investigation phase next, and Akachi's looking at Nathaniel going, "Hey, boxer buddy, why don't you deal with this guy on me?" Let's drop down to Nathaniel's play area and do exactly that. Nathaniel for action 1 will try to do exactly... Actually, what do I want to do for action 1? Discover 1 clue at your location and a clue at any other. I think we'll just work on taking this guy out. So, question is, I think I'm going to engage it away from Akachi, because friendly fire is a thing I need to be worried about. And friendly fire with Akachi would probably deal her 2 damage right now, and I don't want to do that. The reason it's going to deal 2 damage is because I'm going to use Monster Slayer to fight it. So I'm attacking, doing +1 damage. I'm at 5, I'm at 6, 7 to 4, I'm up 3. And I will commit Interrogate just because I saw an up 4. Just because we've seen the Elder thing come out twice already. So we're up 4. A +1 gets rid of the Innsmouth Troublemaker because we're also going to use Nathaniel's special ability to deal one additional damage. So the normal attack did 1, Monster Slayer gave us 2, and Nathaniel's special ability will give us 3. So we'll one-shot the Innsmouth Troublemaker. We'll then exhaust the boxing gloves once I grab an exhaustion token to search the top 6 of his deck for a spirit event. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. First up, Beat Cop, which we can't take. Next up, Vicious Blow, which I would want to take, but I can't. Next up, Paranoia, which I don't want anyway. Then we have a Counterpunch, which I can take. If it bleeds, which I can't take, and Second Wind. So we've got 2 spirit events that we can choose from. I'll shuffle these back in a minute, but let's look at our 2 possible events. Counterpunch is a 0 cost to play. Combat, agility on commit. Fast, play after an enemy attacks you, even if that attack was canceled. Fight targeting the attacked enemy. Or Second Wind. Heal 1 damage, 2 instead if you drew a Treachery this round, then draw 1 card. I think we're going to take Counterpunch. And I'm still in the window after defeating an enemy, so once I get done here, we're going to exhaust Greet next and deal 1 damage to her. That might well be Greta, but I think we'll pronounce it Greta. That seems to make a little more sense. And having a name spelled like that, it wouldn't be totally out of the question for it to be pronounced Greta anyway. Alright, so we'll exhaust Greta and deal a damage to her. Exhaust and grab a damage. To discover a clue off the location. Right, Counterpunch is in our hand, and then for action 3, I think we'll just draw a card. So Nathaniel will draw. Interrogate, which we saw earlier and had to commit. That will do it for Nathaniel. Let's move over to Akachi. We're at a Shroud of 5, but we're going to start with action 1. We're going to clear Akachi out of resources as well. She's going to spend all 6 of hers to start off first with the Clairvoyance. We saw this earlier. We'll get the 4 charges out for that. Remember, it's +1 because of Akachi's special ability. Then we're going to try Read the Signs again. I would use just Clairvoyance, but she's up. Actually, no, we're not going to use Read the Signs on this one, because there's only 1 clue left, and if Nathaniel pulls another enemy, he can grab that clue off the location. So actually, action 2 is going to take us over to the map. Action 2, Akachi is going to move up to the First National Grocery. Take a look at this location. For some reason or other, I chose to make my first inquiries at the chain grocery, whose personnel was not likely to be native to Innsmouth. Of course, it doesn't want to focus for me. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. And we'll flip this into Shroud of 3, 2 clues. As an action, search the top 6 of your cards of your deck for an item card and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck. Limit once per game. I'm going to need some other way to track that, but for now, the bigger problem is going to be the 2 clues there. And then action 3, now we'll use Read the Signs. So there's our Read the Signs that we're using here. We're at a 7 to 4. I've got to remember, because of the fog over Innsmouth, we have +1 Shroud on our location this round. So Akachi is up 3. -1 gets her both clues. And now we could theoretically, it's 1 per investigator clues as a group. So we wouldn't even be able to spend an odd number, which still might not be the worst thing in the world. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. So that will do it for Akachi. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, still no enemies in play. So we'll reset everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Nathaniel will gain one resource, go to 2. Akachi will gain 1 resource. Nathaniel will draw. Daring, 3 wild card on commit. Commit only to a skill test during an attack or an evasion attempt against an enemy. That enemy gains retaliate and alert for the duration of this skill test. After the test ends, draw 1 card. Akachi will draw. Meditative Trance. 2 cost to play, will, lore on commit. For each of your arcane slots that's filled, either heal 1 damage or 1 horror. Mythos phase. Actually, end of the round, Fog over Innsmouth gets discarded. Mythos phase, 2nd Doom on the agenda. Nathaniel will draw. Crypt Chill. Revelation, test will 4. If you fail, choose and discard an asset you control. If you can't, take 2 damage instead. Oh, wonderful. And he's down 1, and I've got nothing I can commit to this, so I'm losing 1 of my better assets. Unless I get a pull, which is possible, but I'm not betting on it. That is definitely not a pull. Cultist is -2. If you fail, place 1 doom on the nearest enemy. Yeah, that was not a pull I was hoping for. So, I'm going to lose the boxing gloves. I'm not happy about it, but I'm relying on Greet to be able to help me get this clue off the location. Which, of course, we're not going to be able to do this round. Akachi will draw. False lead. If you have no... Oh, joy. If you have no clues, false lead gains surge. If you have 1 or more clues, test lore 4. For each point you fail by, place 1 of your clues on your location. Great. She's based down 2. I have to commit Meditative Trance to go down 1 and hope for a pull, which, as you can see, Nathaniel didn't get. Let's find out if Akachi does. She does not either. I should have spent those clues to try to get the clues off the location, try to get a lead in play, but we do put both the clues back on the location because Akachi failed by 3, and we only had 2 clues to put back there. So that's it for the Mythos phase. Investigation phase, and let's see if Akachi can get those clues right back, and this time we will probably spend for a new lead. First order of business will be a charge off of Clairvoyance. For an investigate using will, Akachi's up 2. -2 gets her the clues right back, which she'll immediately spend to draw the top 2 cards of the leads deck. Reveal the top cards and draw 1 of them. So we get 2 cards off the leads deck. Let me go find my list so I can find out what's in the deck. So I can track what's in the deck. Okay, first lead up in the deck is Joyce Little, bookshop owner, 533. Revelation, put Joyce Little into play at the Little bookshop with 2 clues on her, 1 per investigator. Aloof. Parlay, test Will 3. If you succeed, take control of one of the clues on Joyce Little. Then, if there are no clues on her, add her to the victory display. She does a horror on attack. Next up, the Shoreward Slums. Shroud of 5, 2 clues. Revelation, put Shoreward Slums into play. It gets -2 Shroud for each doom on it. Forced. After you fail a skill test while investigating Shoreward Slums, place 1 doom on it, victory 1. So I'll cross both of those out now that I know that they're in the leads deck. Shoreward Slums and Joyce Little. I think we're going to put... She's not far from... Akachi's actually not far from the Little bookshop either. I think we'll put Joyce into play at the Little bookshop. Whoop. Did not mean to jar the camera there. So Joyce is going into play with 2 clues on her. Alright, then the Shoreward Slums will get shuffled back in with the top card of the encounter deck. So we'll give that a shuffle. So presumably the way this would work, that's not what I want. And of course it's not going to give me any details about the leads deck. But I'm assuming that a lead would get put into play. I'm assuming we'd put the lead into play and then have to resolve the encounter card. So group limit once per round, which means we can't do that again. But yeah, I think that's the way that would work, is we'd have to... Oops, the clues are on Joyce, not on the library, on the bookshop. Although speaking of the bookshop, Action 2 will take us over to the map. Action 2, Akachi is going to move over to the Little bookshop. We'll take a look here. A rare bit of warmth in an otherwise dreary town, the Little bookshop is a narrow maze of shelves, each one spilling over with books. This will flip into Shroud of 2, 4 clues. Forced. After you fail a skill test while investigating the Little bookshop, shuffle the top card of the encounter deck into the leads deck. Good thing we didn't have an effect like that when we were at either Innsmouth Square or the First National Grocery. And then Action 3, Akachi's going to parlay with Joyce Little, up 2. That's a Will 3 test. Yep, there's the token. +1 gives Akachi 1 of the clues off Joyce. Then that will do it for Akachi. That'll do it for Akachi. Nathaniel, unfortunately, losing those boxing gloves really hurt. So I think for Action 1, he's going to draw a card. See if we can find a way to get the boxing gloves back. He will draw. Fighting lessons. Combat, agility, wildcard on commit. Commit only to a skill test during an attack or evasion. You may commit this skill test to an investigator's test at any location. Action 2, I think he's going to move over to First National... Actually, he's going to move down to the Gilman House. We'll see what's here. Yes, there's a hotel in Innsmouth called the Gilman House, but I don't believe it can amount to much. I wouldn't advise you to try it. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. This flips into Shroud of 2, 2 clues. As an action, heal 2 damage or 2 horror, or any combination thereof. Limit once per game. Some of the windows on the Gilman House were faintly glowing, and I thought I heard confused sounds within. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. We'll get the 2 clues out for that. And then Nathaniel's base even, so... yeah, we might as well try and investigate, because why not at this point? Yeah. Because even as a way we can pass this test, Rune, however, is not on that list, most likely. -3. If you fail, take 1 horror. Yeah, that's a thing that happened, apparently. That's it for Nathaniel. That's it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the only enemy in play right now is Joyce Little, and so far Akachi's having a nice friendly chat with her. I'd like that to continue if we can. So that will reset everything, and we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Nathaniel will gain 1 resource and go to 3. Akachi will gain 1 and go to 2. Nathaniel will draw. Beat Cop. 4 cost to play, combat on commit. You get +1 combat, and discard Beat Cop as a fast action to deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location. 2 health, 2 sanity. Akachi will draw. Angered Spirits. Oh, wonderful. Revelation, put Angered Spirits into play in your threat area. Fast action, exhaust a spell asset to move 1 charge from that asset to Angered Spirits. Forced, when the game ends, if Angered Spirits has fewer than 4 charges on it, you suffer 1 physical trauma. I need to check something. I've been assuming that I have an action window at the end of the upkeep phase. Opening closet door. We are closing closet door. I want to check my timing windows to make sure I have that straight. Skill test timing. I do not have an action window at the end of the upkeep phase. I've been assuming I do, but I don't. So now that I've got that straight, now we can move into the Mythos phase. We'll put our 3rd Doom on the agenda. Nathaniel will draw. Crypt Chill again. That's going to rip away Greet Wagner if this fails. Is there anything... He's got to test down 1 and hope for another pull. Which he does not get, so that is going to cost him Greta. That hurts because I was planning on relying on Greta to get the clue off, to get one of the clues off this location. Then as a fast action, I'm going to exhaust Clairvoyance once I find the Brassback token to move a charge to Angered Spirits, and then Akachi will draw. Initiative Dagon. Spawn any empty location. While Initiative Dagon has no Doom on it, it gets +2 fight and +2 evade. Yikes. Forced, at the end of the round, if Initiative Dagon is ready and there's no Doom on it, place 1 Doom on it. Does 1 horror. Any empty location. Well, the Innsmouth Square is actually empty. We can send Nathaniel over there to beat that up, hopefully. But that will do it for the Mythos phase. Investigation phase, and I think we're going to move over to Akachi at the map and continue her friendly little chat with Joyce. Before Akachi resumes her friendly chat with Joyce, we are going to spend 2 clues coming into the investigation phase to get 2 more leads out of the leads deck. Now, we did have to shuffle a card from the encounter deck in, so we might end up having a problem here. Hopefully we can get some new leads. First card up. Zadok Allen, Drunk and Disorderly. 4/5/2. Revelation, put him into play at the Fish Street Bridge with 2 clues on him, aloof. As an action of Parlay, test Agility 3. If you succeed, take control of one of the clues on Zadok Allen. Then, if there are no clues on him, add him to the victory display. 2 damage if we decide to attack. And Barnabas Marsh. The change is upon him. 3/4/2. Revelation. Put Barnabas Marsh into play at the Marsh Refinery with 2 clues on him, 1 per investigator. Aloof. Parlay. Test Will 2. If you fail, take 1 horror. If you succeed, take control of one of the clues on Barnabas Marsh. Then, if there are no clues on him, add him to the victory display. 1 damage, 2 sanity on attack. So that's Zadok Allen and Barnabas Marsh. Who's closer? Actually, I think we're going to put Barnabas into play at the Marsh Refinery. We actually have a chance of passing a Will 2 test, whereas the only way I'm passing an Agility 3 test... Let's put it this way. I could pass it with a Kachi, but the only way I'm trusting an Agility 3 test at even is in my dreams, especially knowing how much the bag has hosed us on even tests today. Oh, we needed the top card of the encounter deck as well. So we'll give that a reshuffle. Okay. Now that we've got all that handled, now Akachi will pick up her friendly chat with Joyce. She's up 2 for action 1. Tentacle touched. Fortunately, there's no fail. Action 2, other than the lost action. Action 2, we'll try that again. -1 gets us the clue. And then with our friendly little chat over, Joyce will move over to the victory display. Then action 3, I think we're going to take a resource. We'll set up to play Shriveling next round. That will do it for Akachi. Nathaniel's turn will keep us right here. As for action 1, he's going to move over to Innsmouth Square, make friends with the initiative Dagon. Then action 2... he's going to pay 2 resources to parlay with the initiative Dagon, choosing a humanoid enemy at his location and testing Will 3. Plus X difficulty, where X is the chosen enemy's damage value, which is 0. If you succeed, discover 1 clue here and 1 clue at any other location. He was hiding something, but why? Let's find out. We're up 2. Is there anything Nathaniel wants to commit? There is... not. I was about to snap commit the beat cop, but then I remembered Greta got discarded, so I need another ally. Which means we're up 2. -2 gets us a clue from the Innsmouth Square. And we'll take 1 from the Gilman house. That's 1 clue, yep, 1 clue from Innsmouth Square, and 1 clue at any other location. Then action 3, I'd like to not have to take a hit, but if I have to, I can take a hit at the end of the round. Actually, yeah, we'll probably be fine there. Only while investigating, because I know we failed a parlay here, but we don't have anything to worry about there. I think Nathaniel will attack the initiative Dagon. He's up 1. We'll commit Daring to go up 4 at the risk of a retaliate. Mostly because I want the card on this. So Nathaniel's up 4. -1 takes out the initiative of Dagon, and Nathaniel will get to draw a card. Nathaniel will draw a second wind. Play only as your first action. Actually, we saw that earlier when he was looking for spirit events with the boxing gloves. That will do it for Nathaniel. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, Barnabas needs to get his 2 clues on him. That would be helpful to remember. And he's currently our only enemy in play. I might send Nathaniel over for it, but we can go ahead and reset everything here. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Nathaniel will gain 1 resource and go to 2. Akachi will gain 1 and go to 4. Nathaniel will draw Paranoia. Discard all of his resources. Well, he only had 2. He's probably not doing much anyway this turn. Akachi will draw Ethereal Slip. 2 cost to play. Will, agility on commit. Choose a non-elite enemy at a revealed location up to 2 locations away. Swap places with that enemy. Now, for my next trick. Mythos phase, Doom on the agenda goes up to 4. Nathaniel draws Locked Door. Attach to the location with the most clues and without a locked door attached to it. The attached location can't be investigated. Action, test agility 4 to break down the door, or test combat 4 to break down the door, or agility 4 to pick the locks. If you succeed, discard locked door. That will be going to the little bookshop where Akachi is. Akachi's probably going to try to Gitfo this round of the little bookshop. Akachi draws Obscuring Fog. Revelation, attached to your location, limit 1 per location. Attached location gets +2 Shroud. Forced, after attached location is successfully investigated, discard Obscuring Fog. So it's double locked down. But before we leave the Mythos phase, we'll spend 2 clues. We'll spend 2 clues as a group to get another lead into play. So we get 2 cards out of the deck. If we pull an encounter card now, it'll go to Nathaniel as our lead investigator. First card up. Priest of Dagon. Oh, fun. Spawn at any empty location. When it would be defeated or evaded if there's no doom on it. Instead, heal all damage, ready it, and place 1 doom. Forced at the end of the round. If Priest of Dagon is ready and there's no doom on it, place 1 doom on it. So we'd have to defeat him twice. And Robert Friendly, Disgruntled Dock Worker. 441. Humanoid Suspect Elite. Revelation, put Robert Friendly into play at the Innsmouth Harbor with 1 per investigator clues on him, aka 2. Aloof. Action, parlay to test agility 2. If you fail, take 1 damage. If you succeed, take control of 1 of the clues on Robert Friendly. Then, if there are no clues on him, add him to the victory display. 2 health, 2 damage, 1 sanity. So he goes into play at the Innsmouth Harbor. And the Priest of Dagon goes to any empty location. That's not empty. 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course I don't have a D4. Actually, I can find one. Opening closet door again. Going into the craft tray. Grabbing a D4. Closing closet door. So I've got 4 empty, actually, 1, 2, no, I've got 3 empty locations on the map right now. So First National Grocery 1, Gilman House 2, Fish Street Bridge 3, 4's a reroll. That's a 4, that's a reroll. That's a 1, so he's going to the First National Grocery, which I put him down right here. Okay. Now that we've got that all sorted out, as a fast action, Akachi will exhaust Clairvoyance, put another charge on Angered Spirits. That can get out of my way. And then that's the mythos phase. So into the investigation phase now. Actually, we've got to put another card from the leads deck, or from the encounter deck, into the leads deck. Okay, so we just found. Wait, did I just shuffle Robert Friendly back in? No, I didn't. I put him at the Innsmouth Harper. So now we're down to 50-50 on the suspects. We haven't done anything in terms of finding the hideout. I guarantee you I would not have much confidence at all if I were trying to guess the hideout right now. Barnabas is a will test. That's a problem. We'll need to get Akachi over there pronto, which, moving into the investigation phase, we'll start with Akachi, and we'll see about getting her over there on the express plan. Okay, there's no reason to ethereal slip with the Priest of Dagon, not when I can go around him right now. So for action 1, Akachi will move to the Gilman house. Action 2, she'll move to Innsmouth Square. Actually, you know what? We're going to spend 2 resources here for a fast to move to a connecting Innsmouth location, which will be the Marsh Refinery. He found the Marsh Refinery a queer place. It's in an old mill on the lower falls of the Manixet. What he said tallied up with what I'd heard. Books in bad shape and no clear account of any kind of dealings. You know, it's always been a kind of mystery where the Marshes get the gold they refuse. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. I don't know if that was written that way, but that seems like a typo. Flips into Shroud of 1, 2 clues. 2 actions to draw 4 cards. Limit once per game. That refinery, though, used to be a big thing. An old man Marsh, who owns it, must be Richard Croesus. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. We'll get the 2 clues there. And then Akachi has an action left, since I used the free action on Innsmouth Square to move up there, which she will use to parlay with Barnabas. So she's up 3. And that's where she'll test. She'll test up 3. -1 gives her a clue off of Barnabas. Okay. That is it for Akachi. Nathaniel I could move over and have him help out with the clues there. But I think what I'm going to do here, I've got a little bit of a plan in mind where, okay, it would be defeated if there's no doom on it. So what I'm going to do here, I am going to have to take a hit to get a doom on the Priest of Dagon so I can defeat him. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to draw a card for Nathaniel's action 1. He will draw his Hallowed Mirror. Action 2, he'll take a resource. And action 3, he'll move in to make friends with the Priest of Dagon. The doom doesn't go up until end of round, so that's probably fine here. Even though we're advancing... Oh, this was a... Okay, hold on. I just had another thought. That's actually a bad idea. Because the doom's going to go up at the end of the round. Then we'll advance and clear the doom, so we'll essentially be doing this for nothing. I think for action 3, he'll move into the Fish Street Bridge. Fish Street was as deserted as Maine, although it differed in heaving many brick and stone warehouses still in excellent shape. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. Flips into Shroud of 2, 4 clues. 2 actions to gain 4 resources, limit once per game. The Fish Street Bridge, according to the sketch, was in ruins. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. We'll get the 2 clues for that. That's it for Nathaniel. That's it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the Priest of Dagon isn't a hunter. So we'll reset everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Nathaniel will gain 1 resource and go to 2. Akachi will gain 1 and go to 3. Nathaniel will draw. Monster Slayer. Fight, the attack deals +1 damage. Akachi will draw. Another emergency cache. There's her hand. And since we are at end of the round, Doom would go up on the Priest of Dagon. But during the Mythos phase, we then put our 6th Doom out. We put our 5th Doom on the agenda, which actually translates to our 6th in play on the 6th into play, thanks to the Priest of Dagon. So we do advance. Followed. The town of Innsmouth grows more and more hostile with each day that passes. The townsfolk have caught on to your presence and perhaps even the reason for your visit. Shuffle the set-aside Winged One and both Haunting Night Gaunts into the encounter deck, along with the discard pile. We'll come back to the if a decision to stick together is recorded in a second, because a decision is recorded. So a decision to stick together is recorded. So we'll get the Winged One and both Hunting Night Gaunts. And the discard pile, yep. Okay. Now we'll come back to this. If a decision to stick together is listed under memories recovered in your campaign log, and it is, after several days of investigation, you meet up with Agent Dawson to check in with him. He shows you a figurine of emerald stone depicting some sort of aquatic monstrosity, a piece of heart-shaped amber embedded in its center. After the days you've spent investigating and researching this foul place, the creature is oddly familiar to you. I'm glad I roped you in on this case, Dawson says. It's looking less and less like mob work with each passing hour. Let's stick together from here on out. Choose an investigator to take control of the set-aside Thomas Dawson's story asset. For the remainder of this scenario, he does not take up an ally slot. Let's take a look at Thomas Dawson. He would be a 4-cost to play, will, combat, wildcard on commit. You get +1 will and +1 combat. Reaction: after an enemy attacks an investigator at your location, even if that attack was cancelled, exhaust Thomas Dawson. That investigator draws 1 card. 2 health, 3 sanity on soak. I'm going to give him to Nathaniel, because I'd like to get a boost on his will, and the boost on combat is going to be more useful for him than for Akachi. We'll take a look at Agenda 2A. Growing Suspicion. Just how fully the pursuit was organized, and indeed just what its purpose might be, I could form no idea. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. We've got the same suspect enemy, and as a hint, if we don't make an accusation by the time this agenda advances, we will run out of time. So we might have to make a somewhat blind guess on an accusation there, which I don't like, but we're definitely on a clock here. So now we get into Mythos cards. Nathaniel will draw. Hunting Shadow. Peril. You must either choose 1. Spend a clue or take 2 damage. A shadowy figure follows you in the rain. When you look at it, your head pounds in agony and your vision blurs. Unfortunately, we are going to have to take the 2 damage because I need the clue too much. So Nathaniel will take the 2 damage. And in fact, just before anything goes crazy, we are going to spend the 2 clues here to get another lead to try to get another lead out. So We'll find another 2 leads from the deck. First up, we'll find Zadok Allen, who we know can't be the kidnapper, and Innsmouth Jail. Shroud of 4, 2 clues. Forced. When you defeat an enemy at Innsmouth Jail, instead of discarding that enemy, shuffle it into the leads deck. Victory 1. I was hoping to see a location here. So the hideout is not the Innsmouth Jail. So which lead do we want becomes the question now. Is there a suggested location placement? Oh, it's based on connection. So which one do we want in play right now? I think we'll take the Innsmouth Jail, actually. That connects. Okay. When we move over to the map, I'll point out the location of the new... When we move over to the map, I'll point out the new location. Ideally, I'd like to get one more location into play. I'd like to get one more location out of the leads deck before we make our accusation. That's in an ideal world, though. I'd like to be able to do it, also do it after I get Angered Spirits up to 4 charges, because I don't want Akachi taking another physical trauma already. Okay, so that's done with the leads deck. And then Akachi will draw Innsmouth Look. Revelation, put Innsmouth Look into play in your threat area. You get -1 lore and -1 sanity, and you gain the Deep One trait. As an action, test Will 3. If you succeed, discard Innsmouth Look. Then leaving the Mythos phase will exhaust Clairvoyance, but move that last charge up to Angered Spirits. I really want to get my hands on Akachi's Spell Speaker, or Spirit Speaker here, but I'd have to go digging in the deck for it, which is still a somewhat tempting idea, but we're into the investigation phase now, and we'll start off with Akachi and see if we can clear this location of clues. Action 1. What's she going to do for action 1? Do I want to try to clear Innsmouth Look, or do I just want to go straight into the will tests? I think we're going to take a minute to try to clear the Innsmouth Look first. So action 1, she's going to test the action on Innsmouth Look. We're going to commit Ethereal Slip to get back to 5 and go up 2. Akachi still very much has the Innsmouth Look, because that was the tentacle. So action 2, I think we're going to bite the bullet and just parlay with Barnabas, only up 2. A 0 will get the last clue off of Barnabas, which means he'll move into the victory display. And action 3, what are we going to do for action 3? I think we're going to pay 3 resources to play out Shriveling, which we saw this a while ago. I'm going to get the 5 charges. I'm going to get the 5 charges for it, but I'm going to be putting 1 of them on Angered Spirits. There's 5 charges in the Exhausted token. The Exhausted's going on Shriveling. The extra charge is going on Angered Spirits, so we're all done there. That's it for Akachi. Now let's move over to Nathaniel. If I can get Nathaniel 1 clue off this location, we can go into the leads deck again, and then if both of those are... If we get leads out of that, I feel a bit more comfortable. I could probably make a guess at 2 of each left if I had to. Action 1, we're going to investigate. We're at even. I don't think Nathaniel has any lore that he wants to commit. I don't want to use Monster Slayer, so I'm going to sit tight there. That's even. Tentacle touched, because of course we are. I'll actually get an exhausted token for the act as well, so I remember I've used that. Action 2 will run that back. Elder Sign. That's a good time to see that. +1. If the skill test is successful during an attack, return an event from your discard pile to your hand. Fortunately, it is successful. The +1 is enough to make it successful. So now we can get another lead out of the leads deck. Action 3. Why not? We'll try it one more time. +1 gets him another clue. Hey, look at that. Nathaniel's actually doing something. That will do it for Nathaniel. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the Priest of Dagon is still in play, and Robert Friendly is aloof. Thankfully not a hunter. So we can reset everything here. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Nathaniel will gain 1 resource and go to 3. Akashi will gain 1 resource. Nathaniel will draw. Glory. 1 cost to play, 2 lore on commit. Fast, play after you defeat an enemy, draw 2 cards. Akachi draws. Storm of Spirits. 3 cost to play, lore, combat, will combat on commit. Fight using will instead of combat. If you succeed, instead of its standard damage, deal 2 damage to each enemy at your location. Any additional damage is dealt to the attacked enemy. But if you pull a bad symbol, deal 1 damage to each investigator at your location. We do need to be careful about that, because if you remember from the agenda, anybody who gets caught in the crossfire would then be out for blood. So I only want to use that if I'm sure it's going to be worth it. Mythos phase, end of round, we put a Doom on the Priest of Dagon. Mythos phase, we put 1 on the agenda, which brings us up to 2 thanks to the Priest of Dagon. Thankfully, at this point, he can go. Nathaniel will draw. Locked Door, which goes to another location, goes to the Marsh Refinery where Akachi is. We're going to spend the 2 clues on the act to get 2 more leads into play. And if both of these are locations, I may just have to bite the bullet and make a guess. Let's see what we find here. First up, the house on Water Street. Shroud of 1, 4 clues. Revelation put the house on Water Street into play. Forced. After you successfully investigate the house on Water Street by 3 or more, either draw the top card of the encounter deck or shuffle that card into the leads deck. Not a living thing did I see, except for the Scattered Fisherman. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth, and I need to put the clues on the Innsmouth jail. Alright, so the house on Water Street is in the deck, or is in the leads deck, which means now I could guess. I'd feel better if I can narrow down one of these a bit further. And the Esoteric Order of Dagon. That's a 50-50 on both of them. Shroud of 3, 2 clues. Revelation put it into play. Forced. After the last remaining clue is discovered from the Esoteric Order of Dagon, remove the top card of the leads deck from the game without looking at it. This, then, was the former Masonic Hall now given over to a degraded cult. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth, Victory 1. Okay, so that kind of changes things a bit now that we're down to 2 on each of them. I think we'll take the... the house on Water Street. Where are the connections for that? Yellow circle and moon. So that's going to go up here. That's the 4 clues for that. We haven't needed to move over to the map yet, so I haven't pointed out the new locations. Then we get the Esoteric Order of Dagon and the top card of the Leads deck, or the Encounter deck. Oh, I've been doing that wrong. So each investigator has to draw the card first. Well, I'm just going to take the card from the deck. Akachi draws. Obscuring Fog, which gets attached to her location. So it's basically double locked down like the little bookshop. We'll probably have to double over to the house on Water Street anyway. So that wouldn't have impacted anything anyway. For some reason I thought the timing window looped, but it didn't. It would help to actually read the chart. So many of these loop, but there is not a window between one card and basically you have to draw both cards and then you get an open player window in the Mythos phase. I think I just got a little bit confused by that, but that's on me. Speaking of the Mythos phase, that'll do it there. Investigation phase next, and we'll move over to Akachi, and we'll finally move over to the map. I think my plan here is going to be to go one more round before I make my accusation. So at the end of next round, I'm going to accuse. Akachi for action 1 will move over to the house on Water Street. Then action 2, she's going to investigate up 1. Yeah, we'll test there. Cultist is right, -2. If you fail, place 1 doom on the nearest enemy. So she will fail and put a doom on Robert Friendly. That's going to be a problem. Action 3, so that'll bring us up to 3. Action 3, we'll have to run it back. I may have to be content with 1 clue. Which a 0 will give us. So that means we can make 1 more shot at the Leads deck. Assuming nothing goes haywire, we can make 1 more shot at the Leads deck before we make our accusation at the end of next round. That will do it for Akachi. Nathaniel for action 1, he'll move up to the Innsmouth Square. Then he'll spend 2 of his resources to go up to the First National Grocery and make friends with the Priest of Dagon. Action 2, he's going to use... where is it? Here it is. He's going to use Monster Slayer to fight, dealing +1 damage. He's at a 6 to a 3. He's up 3. Thomas Dawson is giving him 1. And he'll commit the Beat Cop to go up 4. Actually, let me see if pulling a bag left-handed is going to make it a little better. +1 means the Priest of Dagon goes bye-bye because it had Doom on it. So we had to basically let it sit for a round. Then for actions, actually in the fast window, we're going to spend his last resource to play Glory and draw 2 cards. Ding, ding, ding! Nathaniel will draw. Another pair of boxing gloves. That's perfect. That would be perfect if we had resources. And a safeguard. After 2 costs to play, will on commit. After another investigator moves from your location to a connecting location, exhaust safeguard to move with them. And for action 3, Nathaniel will take a resource. So we can get the boxing gloves theoretically into play next turn. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, our only enemy right now is Robert Friendly, and he's aloof. So we'll reset everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Both Nathaniel and Akachi will gain 1 resource and go to 2. Nathaniel will draw. Something worth fighting for. 3 costs to play, will on commit. Something worth fighting for can be maybe assigned horror dealt to other investigators at your location. 3 sanity on soak. Akachi will draw. Sign magic. 3 costs to play, will on commit. Fast. You have 1 additional arcane slot, which can only be used to hold a spell or ritual asset, and it takes up a hand slot. Mythos phase, 2 doom on the agenda, 3 thanks to Robert Friendly. Nathaniel will draw. Hunting Night Gaunt, 3/4/1 Hunter. While attempting to evade Hunting Night Gaunt, double the negative modifier of each revealed cast token. They had no faces at all to smile with, but only a suggestive blankness where a face ought to be. H.P. Lovecraft, 1 and 1 of each. Akachi will draw. Initiative Dagon, spawn any empty location. We saw this earlier. Where are our empty locations right now? 1. So, Gilman House, Innsmouth Square, Innsmouth Jail, and Fish Street Bridge. So this time it's a nice easy 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 means he's going to the Fish Street, the First National Grocery. Actually, no, wait. That's not, oh no, 1 is going to the Gilman House. We have to send Nathaniel down to deal with him, but actually it's not going to matter. Well, it might matter. Okay, now that I've remembered, we're going to spend the 2 clues to get another 2 cards out of the lead deck. If we have decent luck here, we may be able to make our accusation. Actually, either way, I think we're accusing this round. We're going to have to guess, unfortunately. I'd like to get at least 1 of these to narrow it down completely, so I only have 1 50-50 rather than 2. First up we find Brian Burnham wants out. 3/3/5. Revelation, put him into play in the First National Grocery with 2 clues on him. Aloof. Action, discard cards from your hand with at least 3 total skill icons among them. Parlay. Take control of 1 of the clues on Brian Burnham. Then, if there are no clues on him, add him to the victory display. And Innsmouth Troublemaker. So that will go to Nathaniel, as if he didn't have enough problems. And then Brian will go into play at the First National Grocery. So now we have a 50-50 on the... So now we have a 50-50 on the hideout, which I can deal with that. So he goes into play there with 2 clues on him. As if Nathaniel didn't have enough problems right now. We can probably set up to get rid of at least 1 of them this turn. But that will do it for the Mythos phase. Investigation phase now, and let's start with Nathaniel with this mess on his hands. Only up 2 against the Innsmouth Troublemakers. Not a place I'm completely comfortable, but I think it's where we're going to have to bite the bullet and attack. So we're up 2. -1 is the damage on the Innsmouth Troublemaker once I get the damage out. Action 2 will run that back. A 0 hits the Innsmouth Troublemaker for another damage. And then we'll try to take out the Troublemaker. Elder Thing is not going to do it. -4 if you fail. Place one of your clues on your location. So we did fail that one, which is unfortunate because Nathaniel's getting rocked on the enemy phase here. But that will do it for Nathaniel. Let's move over to Akachi, and we'll move over to the... Where do we want to move? We'll move down to our play area, see if we can get more of these clues off. Action 1, we're going to start with an investigate. Akachi's up 1. And there's nothing that she can commit. So, actually, no, she's even because I forgot about the Innsmouth look. Which is not great. Elder Thing is a yeah right. That's the -4 if you fail to place a clue on your location. Action 2 will... Actually, we'll test the Innsmouth look, see if we can get rid of that. Cultist says no. If you fail, place 1 doom on the nearest enemy, which once again is Robert Friendly. That's unfortunate. And then action 3 will run the Innsmouth look back. -2 says no. So that'll do it for Akachi. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, Nathaniel's going to be busy. He's taking 2 damage from the Innsmouth Troublemaker, and then he's taking 1 and 1 from the Hunting Night Gaunt. Actually, after an enemy attacks, he'll exhaust Thomas Dawson to draw a card. So Nathaniel will draw. 1-2 punch, 2 cost to play, combat on commit. Fight with +1 combat for the attack. If you succeed, you may fight again. You get +2 combat and deal +1 damage for that attack. Right. The Hunting Night Gaunt was attacking next. We'll deal... Nathaniel will take the damage, and he'll put the Sanity on Thomas. And then Nathaniel will play... Where is it? Here you are. We'll play Counterpunch. Fast play after an enemy attacks you, even if the attack was cancelled. Fight attacking the targeting the attacking enemy. Nathaniel's up 3, and I think that's where he'll test. Rune is not good. -3, well, actually, -3 if you fail, take a horror. I think that's actually enough to succeed because he was up 5, 6, yep, he was up 3. So he does succeed. We'll use his special ability to deal an extra damage to the Hunting Night Gaunt, so that's 2 damage on that. Then we'll reset everything. And then I'll meet you guys back up top for the upkeep phase once I change my battery. Nathaniel and Akachi will both gain 1 resource and go to 3. Nathaniel will draw. Vicious Blow. Where has this been all game? We'll take a quick look at it. Combat to commit, on commit, and if it's successful during the skill test is successful during an attack, the attack deals +1 damage. Akachi will draw. Amnesia. Choose and discard all but one card from your hand. Oh, delightful. Wait. Where am I? What was I doing? Good question, Akachi. Next good question is, what are you keeping? I think you're keeping the mirror. All right, then end of round, we are going to advance. We are going to advance the act, since we have the option to do that. All right, the search for Agent Harper. The accusation. The time has come for you to reveal your hand. You've retraced Agent Harper's steps as best you can and learned a lot about Innsmouth and its citizenry. Perhaps with this information, you can narrow down where Harper is now. But if you aren't swift and decisive, the kidnapper will surely discover you're onto them. You have only one chance to get this right. One chance to locate Harper and surprise her kidnapper. If you're wrong, it's back to square one. Or worse. Read Scenario Interlude, The Accusation in the campaign guide. And of course, we'll ask our voiceless but very familiar narrator in a second to read that interlude. So let me cue it up here. Right, I got a guess on this, don't I?
Resolution 1.
Nope.
Resolution 2.
No.
Resolution 3.
No.
Resolution.
Keep going.
Resolution.
No.
Resolution 6.
For crying out loud.
Resolution 7.
No.
If no resolution.
For crying out loud. Did I not record this one? That seems very unlikely, but certainly possible, I guess.
Scenario 2. Resolution 1.
Alright, well, I guess we're getting live narration with Phoenix Knight. So, read this interlude. So, Scenario Interlude, The Accusation. Read this interlude only when you are instructed to do so, which we just were. Using the knowledge you've gathered, you must make an accusation in an attempt to locate who has kidnapped Elina Harper and where she's hidden. In order to make this accusation, the players must choose one suspect enemy and one hideout enemy from among the options listed on the Finding Agent Harper reference card. Note the suspect cannot be an enemy who is currently in play or the victory display, nor can the hideout be a location that is currently in play. Use this information to narrow down your choices. Once the accusation has been made, do the following. So our accusation, we know the kidnapper is Othera Gilman, and I'm going to guess that Newchurch Green is the hideout. So we're going to do that. I'm guessing Newchurch Green. So now we're going to reveal the suspect and the hideout that are face down beneath Finding Agent Harper. So let's see what we find is face down here. It's Othera Gilman, like we guessed. And this is our location. Sawbone Alley, so we were wrong on that one. Reveal it. Okay, so in your campaign log, under possible suspects and possible hideouts, circle the names of the correct suspect and hideout location. So Sawbone Alley was correct, and we know Othera Gilman was correct from process of elimination. If neither card matches your accusation, which it didn't, the investigators are on the wrong track and must immediately resign. If only one of the two cards matches your accusation, the investigators are partially correct and may proceed, but they have angered the citizens of Innsmouth during their careless investigation. Flip over the Finding Agent Harper reference card and spawn the enemy on its other side at the Innsmouth square. If both cards match your accusation, the investigators are correct and may proceed. So we're flipping over Finding Agent Harper and spawning the Angry Mob at Innsmouth Square. 343, Hunter, Massive, Retaliate. Angry Mob gets +4 per investigator health, so it's actually a 12. But they can't make attacks of opportunity. Victory 0. 1 and 1. So we spawn that at Innsmouth Square. we may end up noping out of this scenario pretty quick. In order to set up the final act and agenda, do the following. Advance the act directly to set aside 2A, agenda to set aside 3A. Put the hideout location that was beneath finding Agent Harper into play. Add 1 per investigator additional clues to that location. Place the set aside Elina Harper story asset beneath this location to indicate that this is where Elina Harper has been captured. Spawn the suspect enemy that was beneath finding Agent Harper at Elina Harper's location, ignoring their revelation ability. For the remainder of this scenario, this enemy is referred to as the Kidnapper. You are remove the leads deck from the game. You are now ready to proceed with the final act and agenda. I will shut the camera off to do all of that, and we'll come back with the final part of the scenario ready to go. Alright, here's our first look at Sawbone Alley. We won't worry about Elina Harper just yet. Shroud of 2, 4 normally, but 6 clues because it's the hideout. Revelation put it into play. Each humanoid enemy at Sawbone Alley gets +2 fight and -2 evade. It would be well not to make oneself too conspicuous in such neighborhoods. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth, Victory 1. And out there, Gilman, our Kidnapper, Proprietress of the Hotel, 353, which I believe turns into 7, yes. Not aloof, and we can't parlay with her, so that ability is not relevant either. 2 horror on attack. Okay, I think that's everything needed there. So that was, we need to go through the new act and agendas, which reminds me, Frantic Pursuit also is going to come in, our last agenda. Frantic Pursuit. My frantic running ceased before I had covered a block, for at my left I began to hear something like the hue and cry of organized pursuit. There were footsteps and guttural sounds, and a rattling motor wheezed south along Federal Street. H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow over Innsmouth. Forced if we defeat a suspect, yada yada yada. 7 doom to advance, but it comes in with 1 extra because of our tarot card. And we have the rescue. All of your evidence leads here. You must rescue Agent Harper at all costs. The Kidnapper loses aloof, gets +1 per investigator health, and can't be parlayed with. Objective. If either the Kidnapper is in the victory display, or there are no clues on Elina Harper's location, advance. If there are 2 or more investigators in the game, we have to do both. Alright, that sounds like a good time to start digging like crazy for as much cloovering as we can. But let's move back up top for the Mythos phase. Alright, that was the end of the round, so now we're into the Mythos phase. Frantic Pursuit goes up to 2 doom. Nathaniel draws. Crypt Chill, great timing on this one, by the way. So we're down, actually we're even on this. Can we do anything to help with that? We'll commit Safeguard to go up 1. And hope for a pull. -1 basically cost us that one, so we lose. So we end up losing Thomas Dawson, which is not a great scenario to be in right now. I'll put him over to the side because I'm presuming I'm going to need him at some point. Akachi draws. False lead. If you have no clues, false lead gains surge. That surges into. Winged one. Oh, great. Hunter. 3-5X. X is the shroud value of Winged One's location. Winged One takes 1 fewer damage from attacks except by ranged, firearm, or spell cards to a minimum of 1. Victory 1, 1-1 on attack. Great time for that to come up, especially since we've got an Innsmouth mob also coming after us, but nothing we can do there. We're into the investigation phase, and let's see if Nathaniel can deal with these enemies before maybe going to say hello to Athera. I really don't want to take an attack of opportunity from both of these enemies. Actually, I couldn't take an attack of opportunity because that would get Nathaniel defeated by damage. Seems like a bad plan. So for action 1, we'll start off by trying to deal with the Innsmouth Troublemaker. We're up 2, but that would defeat him if we managed to take him out. Rune is not going to do it, though. -3. We failed, so we do take a horror. Action 2. I think we got to run it back. A 0 takes out the Innsmouth Troublemaker, so at least we're not just going to bite it here. But we are going to have the mob coming after Nathaniel, most likely. So that's not a great spot for him to be in right now. Action 3, I think we're going to try to Vicious Blow the Hunting Night Gaunt. So we're up 3. Actually, we were only up 2. No, we were only up 1. But yeah, we still took it out. So we're up 2 now. Actually, we're up 3 now. Skull is -X, where X is the agenda's current number. And the current agenda number is actually 3, so that's enough to take out the Hunting Night Gaunt. Unfortunately, Nathaniel's a sitting duck for the... Unfortunately, Nathaniel is a sitting duck for the Innsmouth mob, but there's nothing we can do about that. That's it for Nathaniel. Let's move over to Akachi. I want to be able to nope Akachi out, so action 1 is going to be to try to evade up 2. Skull is not going to do it at a -3. Action 2 will run the evade back. A 0 means she will evade the winged one. And action 3, what is her action 3 right now? It's not going to play the mirror right now. Action 3, Either way, someone's going to have the mob landing on them this turn. I think action 3 will take us over to... Actually, action 3, Akachi will draw a card. We need to get some cloovering ability for when we go into Sawbone Alley. So Akachi will draw. Ward of Protection. Fast, play when you draw a non-weakness treachery card, cancel that card's revelation, then take a horror. 1 cost to play while on commit. That will do it for Akachi. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, we could send the mob after either Akachi or Nathaniel. Because they're both... Actually, no, we couldn't. Because the Innsmouth Square doesn't connect to Akachi, but it does connect to Nathaniel. So Nathaniel will take 1 and 1. He needs to get away from that mob pronto, but with a... He's probably not going to be able to evade it with a low... Well, he might have to. He's going to have to try to get away from that, but... That will do it for the enemy phase. We'll reset everything here. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Also on upkeep phase, the winged one made friends with Akachi. Alright, and refreshing everything. So both of them will gain 1 resource and go to 4. Nathaniel will draw. Another safeguard, which is probably not that useful right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we're all clear there. Akachi will draw. A familiar spirit. 1 cost to play, will on commit. You have one additional arcane slot, which can only be used to hold a spell asset. Not that useful right now. Mythos phase, third doom on the agenda. Nathaniel will draw. Fog over Innsmouth. Uh-oh. Revelation test will 3. If you succeed, either take one. We saw this earlier. Nathaniel is at even. He will commit Safeguard to go up 1 and something worth fighting for to go up 2. Also, at the end of the round, the initiative Dagon should have gotten a doom on him. So we're actually at 4 right now, which means we are quickly running out of time. Coming back to our test, we're at 3, 4, 5. We're up 2. Pulling a skull, which is -3. So Nathaniel is 1 damage, is 1 sanity from being defeated by sanity, and Shroud of all locations is increased by 1. Which is not a good spot for us to be in right now. So those are both gone. Akachi will draw. Another Innsmouth look. Great. So now we have no lore and maximum sanity of 6. That's fun. And we've got a winged one that we have to try to get away from. This is just going completely sideways. But that will do it for the Mythos phase. Investigation phase, and I think Nathaniel right now is in pray he can evade the angry mob. So let's move over to Nathaniel first. Nathaniel's only going to get 1 good shot at this. He is down 1. Actually, he's down 1, so he's going to have to commit fighting lessons just to go up 1, trying to evade. +1 will evade the angry mob, surprisingly. Then action 2. Action 2, we're actually going to spend 3 resources to play out the boxing gloves. And then action 3 will take us over to the map. Nathaniel managed to give the mob the slip, and as much as I want to move down here to take out this initiative Dagon, I can't because Nathaniel only has 1 sanity left. So he's going to have to settle for moving to Innsmouth Square. There's a very real temptation that we're going to end up resigning this and calling it a scenario. But we'll see what happens here. Akachi's action 1, she's got to try to evade the winged one again. She's up 2 trying to evade. Cultist is -2 once again. If we fail, put a doom on the nearest enemy, which it'll actually be the winged one. Let's see, 4, 2, 4, 5. So we're actually in a lot of trouble here. Action 2 will run the evade back. Actually, no, -2 didn't fail because 1 to 1. So never mind. We did succeed. I can't math today apparently, which is actually a good thing that we succeeded because we would have been in a lot of trouble if we had another failed test. Action 2 will be to move Akachi to... I think we're going to move her to the... Wait, that connection... Hold on. I think that... No, that connection is actually the little bookshop. So Sawbone Alley, I misread the symbol. So Sawbone Alley actually goes here. Helps if I look at the connection markers correctly. So the 6 clues go there, which means Nathaniel's actually pretty close. I was going to say he's pretty close to it. He's not terrible, but he's definitely not where... Actually, now that I know where that really is, actually Nathaniel probably would have moved over to the little bookshop. Now that I realize the connections, yeah, he would have moved there. So we'll retcon that here. Actually, would we have? No, I don't think we would have, actually. We'd be thinking about resigning pretty heavily at this point, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave Nathaniel at Innsmouth Square. Especially if things go sideways, that's a very real option. Action 2, though, Akachi will move to the Marsh Refinery, and then Action 3, she'll move to Innsmouth Square. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, we managed to evade both of our hunters, both of whom will now ready. And then we'll reset everything for our investigators. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Nathaniel will gain 1 resource and go to 2. Akachi will gain 1 and go to 5. Nathaniel will draw. If it bleeds, we saw this earlier, but we had to commit it. Akachi will draw. Spirit Speaker, where have you been? 2 cost to play, will, lore, wildcard on commit. As a fast action, exhaust Spirit Speaker. Choose an asset you control with uses, charges. Either return that asset to your hand, or move all charges from that asset to your resource pool as resources and discard it. Mythos phase, 4th Doom on the agenda, 5th in play thanks to the initiative Dagon. Nathaniel draws. On Wings of Darkness, Revelation, test Agility 4. If you fail, take 1 damage and 1 horror. Then, disengage from each non-Nightgaunt enemy engaged with you and move to a central location. A Nightgaunt swoops down from the sky and grabs you with its clawed hands, carrying you off into the night. Oh joy. Does Nathaniel have any agility? He does not. How about Akachi? Better idea. Akachi's going to... Oh, when you draw. Oh, Nathaniel's screwed then. Because he's down 2 and even a pull won't save him. But we'll pull it anyway. Nathaniel's down 2. Rune is if you fail, take a horror. So yeah, either way, Nathaniel is always getting defeated by sanity on this one. So that will give him a mental trauma, which is more alarming than the physical trauma. Well, it brings Nathaniel down to an 8-5, which is still serviceable. Akachi will draw. Furtive Locals. Action, test lore, Revelation, test lore 3. If you succeed, either take... This is basically Fog over Innsmouth, which should be gone, but for damage. If we succeed, we either take a damage or put Furtive Locals into play next to the agenda deck. If we fail, do both. Investigators can't parlay, which we're not concerned with right now anyway. And at the end of the round, discard 1 copy of Furtive Locals from play, max once per round. Akachi right now is at a lore of 0, thanks to the Innsmouth look. But we'll test it anyway, just for giggles, because you never know. We may pull the Elder Sign and get to add a charge to something. +1 says Akachi's got to take a damage and add the Furtive Locals to next to the agenda deck. Then Nathaniel's out of the scenario with a mental trauma. This will be a very short investigation phase because everything's gone completely sideways on us here, especially with losing our Monster Puncher. So Akachi is unfortunately going to have to lay low and resign. So, with that, let's move into scenario resolution. Alright, Phoenix from the past, take it away.
If no resolution was reached, each investigator resigned or was defeated. The town of Innsmouth has proven more hostile and unwelcoming than you could have ever imagined. At every turn, you are stalked by sordid brutes and disfigured silhouettes, figures that crawl on all fours and watch you from the shadows with bulging, unblinking eyes. Fearing that you have drawn too much attention to your investigation, you retreat to your hotel room only to find it ransacked. Your luggage is ravaged, its contents strewn about. Much of your gear has been stolen. Scrawled on the wall in black paint is a warning. Interlopers drown in the deep. Proceed to Resolution 1.
That's always fun. Now we can find Resolution 1.
Resolution 2.
Nope. So it's probably this one.
Resolution 1.
There we are.
You are cleaning up the mess left behind by those who vandalized your hotel room when you hear shuffling outside your door. Feeling the worst, you press up against the wall and wait in perfect silence. There is no escape from your room other than a narrow window of dirty glass that you don't think you can fit through. Your heart thumps it loudly in your chest as you wait for whatever is to come. A knock on the door, a break-in, anything. You certainly aren't expecting a small leather notebook to slip through a crack under your door, though that's exactly what happens. After a moment, you breathe a sigh of relief and step forward to examine the notebook. It's an old handwritten account describing the history of the strange town of Innsmouth as far back as the early 1800s, though the author goes unnamed. The record seems to focus primarily on Obed Marsh's founding of a strange organization called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. You don't remember any manuscripts of this sort on sale at the local bookstore, nor do you think the town has any libraries to speak of. Where was this notebook found, and who delivered it to you? Curiosity gets the better of you. You open the door to your hotel room, but the dim, dusty hallway lies bare before you. The identity of your benefactor eludes you. Still, you can't pass up a chance like this. For the remainder of the night, you study the record, jotting notes in the margin as you draw connections between Innsmouth's past and the events of the past week. One thing becomes clear. Whatever this esoteric order of Dagon is, its members must be the ones behind Agent Harper's kidnapping, and just as Agent Dawson suspected, their motives seem to have nothing to do with evading prohibition. Each investigator earns experience equal to the Victory X value of each card in the Victory display. Record this experience under Unspent Experience in your campaign log, but do not spend any of it yet. You will be instructed to spend this experience at a later time. In your campaign log, record The Mission Failed. Proceed to Interlude 2, The Syzygy.
Our victory in the victory display is 0, so we can't even use the house rule to clear trauma, which would have been something I probably would have been warm to doing with Nathaniel, but actually probably with both of them. But we're headed to Interlude 2, The Syzygy, which is, oh boy.
Interlude 2, The Syzygy. The Syzygy 1. Light flashes in your mind. Shadows drown your thoughts as the memory fades. You are lying once again on the rocky beach off the coast, your skull pounding in agony. Agent Harper leans over you with worry etched in her brow. Hey, you finally awake? You sit up, your muscles aching. It looks like the tide rose several more inches while you were out. The cold water laps at your ankles and soaks into your shoes. What happened, she says. What did you see? Check campaign log. If the mission failed, proceed to the Syzygy 2. If the mission was successful, skip to the Syzygy 3.
Obviously the mission failed, so we're going to the Syzygy 2.
The Syzygy 2. You tell Harper you remember your mission to find her, but that after a week of searching, you hadn't been able to do so. The last thing you remember was somebody slipping a notebook under your hotel room door with some information regarding an organization called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Oh, yeah, that was me. Sorry I couldn't stick around and chat, but I had some other business to attend to, she explains. She tells you that after several days in captivity, she finally managed to get the upper hand against her captor and free herself, but she was injured in the process. As if to prove her story, she opens her trench coat, and you see dark bloodstains seeping through her button-up shirt. Several bandages peek out beneath the fabric. Just barely missed my kidney. Lucky me, eh? You complain that you were wasting your time searching high and low for her, and she scoffs. Hardly. You learned more in 1 week than I did in 2. I knew that you were onto something, and I wanted to help out, but I was still being followed. So I dropped off the one solid bit of research I'd found and laid low for a while. It was you who did the rest, really. Sadly, you remember nothing of the rest. Skip to the Syzygy 4. The Syzygy 4. Don't worry, she says. I'll catch you up. There's a lot you still don't remember. Just then, a resounding crash of thunder echoes on the eastern horizon, and a powerful wave smashes against the jetties. The sky is a deep crimson red behind blackening storm clouds that swirl around the sun and the moon. The celestial bodies hang together in perfect alignment. That can't be good. Harper's lips turn rigid with concern. Okay, new plan. Let's get back to Innsmouth. I'll explain what I know along the way. With a fragment of your memories returned to you, past events have become clearer. Each investigator may now spend their experience recorded under unspent experience in your campaign log. Proceed to Scenario 3, In Too Deep.
That's where we'll go next week in the winter campaign. But that will do it for this playthrough of The Vanishing of Elina Harper. Wednesday we're playing Expeditions. Saturday we're cooking with Deadpool on Mystical Munchies as we make the entree, not the only fish in the sea. And I'm expecting a couple unboxings to go up during the week. Stay tuned for those as well. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.